Hello, and welcome to the annual meeting of stockholders of CytoDyn, Inc. Please note that today's meeting is being recorded. During the meeting, we will have a question and answer session. You can submit questions or comments at any time by clicking on the message icon. It is now my pleasure to turn today's meeting over to Arian Kalachis, General Counsel and Corporate Secretary of CytoDyn. Ms. Kalachis, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the 2020 Annual Meeting of Stockholders of CytoDyn, Inc. I would like to thank all of you for participating in our virtual meeting today. It is 9:33 a.m. Let's begin today's meeting. I am Arian Kalachis, General Counsel and Corporate Secretary of CytoDyn, and will be presiding officer at this meeting. I now call the meeting to order. A representative from Computershare, who will be acting as the Inspector of Election for this meeting, is also in attendance. The Inspector has informed me that a majority of the outstanding shares of common stock of CytoDyn are represented at this virtual meeting. I therefore declare a quorum present. Today's virtual-only meeting is a live audio webcast and will be recorded and posted on our website later today. At the end of the meeting, we will have a question and answer session. You may submit your questions or comments at any time by clicking on the message icon at the top of your screen. Following introductions, we will hold the formal voting portion of the meeting. At the conclusion, Dr. Pourhassan will provide a business update. To begin, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Board of Directors of CytoDyn. Dr. Scott A. Kelly joined CytoDyn's board in April 2017, became the board's chairman in December 2018, and in April this year left his medical practice to join CytoDyn as its Chief Medical Officer and Head of Business Development. Dr. Kelly was a practicing physician, an author, and is board certified in physical medicine and rehabilitation. Dr. Kelly served at Atlanta-based Resurgence Orthopedics since 2002, including as Director of the Safety Council since 2013 and as Medical Director of Resurgence Orthopedics Spine Center since 2007. Dr. Nader Z. Pourhassan has served as President and Chief Executive Officer of CytoDyn since 2012. Dr. Pourhassan has also served as a member of the Board of Directors since 2012. Dr. Pourhassan was previously employed as CytoDyn's Chief Operating Officer from May 2008 until June 30th, 2011, at which time he accepted the position as Managing Director of Business Development. Jordan G. Nadenov has been a Director of CytoDyn since 2009. Mr. Nadenov is an officer and significant shareholder in Melara Inc. and Melara International. Both companies participate in the surface mount and semiconductor industries. Mr. Nadenov has been a significant investor in CytoDyn for several years. Alan P. Timmons was appointed to the board in January this year. Prior to retiring in July of this year, Mr. Timmons was Vice President for Financial Affairs at the University of Portland since 2011, and prior to joining the university, served for 16 years in various positions, including President, Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer, and Chief Financial Officer for Sarepta Therapeutics, a public traded life science technology company focused on precision genetic medicine. Dr. David F. Welch has been a member of the board since January 2019 and was named our strategy advisor in July 2019. In October 2018, Dr. Welch was named the Chief Innovation Officer of Infira Corporation, a company which he co-founded. From November 2017 to October 2018, Dr. Welch served as Infira's Chief Strategy and Technology Officer. Dr. Welch is a significant investor and supporter of CytoDyn. This is Dr. Welch's last annual stockholder meeting, and we thank him for his immense contribution he provided CytoDyn during his tenure with the company. Dr. Samir R. Patel is a medical doctor and was appointed to the board in April this year. Dr. Patel is a significant investor in CytoDyn and an active biotech entrepreneur, co-founder, principal, and former CEO from 2003 to 2010 of SPEC Pharma, co-founder and CEO since 2011 of Digital Therapeutics, and since 2017, principal of Prana Bio Investments, which provides strategic advisory service for small biotechnology companies. Also joining us this morning are Jeff Burleson, Wayne Dunn, and Des Swally with Warren Everett, our independent registered public accounting firm. Messrs. Burleson and Dunn are members and partners of Warren Everett, and Deb Swally is a senior manager. Jeff, Wayne, and Deb, thank you for being here today. Before we commence with the formal items of business, I will address a few procedural matters. If you are a stockholder of record and have mailed in your proxy, it will be voted on your behalf in accordance with your instructions, and there is nothing further for you to do. If you need a copy of the proxy statement, the links are provided online. If you have not voted or wish to change your vote, you may do so now by clicking on the link provided online. Note that only holders who have logged in with their control number have the option to vote or submit a question online. Any stockholder who has already voted and does not want to change their vote need not take any further action. Following the formal business of the meeting, there will be a brief business review and update, followed by questions and answers. Again, only holders that have logged in with their control number have the option to submit a question. There are four formal items for today's meeting. Election of directors. I now declare the polls open. The first order of business is the election of 5 directors whose terms of office will expire at the annual meeting of stockholders in 2021. As described in the proxy statement, the nominees are Dr. Scott A. Kelly, Dr. Nader Pourhassan, Jordan G. Nadenov, Alan P. Timmons, and Dr. Samir R. Patel. There are no other nominees for director. All nominees are presently directors of CytoDyn. The Board of Directors recommends approval of each of the foregoing nominees to serve as director of CytoDyn. Those persons who are voting virtually, please cast your vote now. If you have given a proxy, your shares will be voted for you. This concludes the consideration of the election of directors. The next item is approval of CytoDyn's amended and restated 2012 Equity Incentive Plan. The proposal is described in the proxy statement regarding approving this plan, which includes, among other things, an increase in authorized shares of 25 million, an extension of the term to 2030, and an evergreen provision to increase the authorized shares by 1% annually beginning June 1st of every year starting in 2021. The Board of Directors recommends approval of CytoDyn's amended and restated 2012 Equity Incentive Plan. Those persons who are voting virtually, please cast your vote now. If you have given your proxy, your shares will be voted for you. This concludes consideration of the proposal to approve the company's amended and restated 2012 Equity Incentive Plan. The next item of business is consideration of the proposal described in the proxy statement regarding ratification of the selection of Warren Everett as CytoDyn's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2021. The appointment of Warren Everett to continue as our independent auditor has been made by the Audit Committee. The Board of Directors recommends approval of the selection of Warren Everett as our independent auditors for fiscal 2021. Those persons who are voting virtually, please cast your vote now. If you have given a proxy, your shares will be voted for you. This concludes consideration of the proposal to ratify the selection of our independent registered public accounting firm for fiscal 2021. The next order of business is consideration of the proposal described in the proxy statement regarding approval of executive compensation. CytoDyn's philosophy is that executive compensation should align with stockholders' interests without encouraging excessive and unnecessary risk. The stockholder vote is advisory and therefore not binding on CytoDyn, the Compensation Committee, or the Board of Directors. The Board of Directors recommends that you vote on an advisory basis to approve the following resolution. Resolved that the compensation paid to named executive officers as disclosed in this proxy statement pursuant to Item 402 of Regulation S-K adopted by the SEC, including the executive compensation tables and accompanying footnotes and narrative discussion, is hereby approved. Those persons who are voting virtually, please cast your vote now, and if you have given a proxy, your shares will be voted for you. This concludes consideration of this proposal. The online voting will now be closed. The proxies and votes cast during this meeting will be tabulated, and the voting results will be reflected in the minutes of the meeting and will be reported in a current report on Form 8-K to be filed with the SEC within the next few days. We will, however, take a few minutes now to complete the tabulations so as to provide you with an update on the preliminary voting results. Here are the preliminary results of the votes tabulated today. Proposal 1, regarding the election of directors, all directors were reelected by each receiving over 84% of the votes tabulated today. Proposal 2, regarding the approval of the company's amended and restated 2012 Equity Incentive Plan, the proposal was approved by over 56% of the votes tabulated today. Proposal 3, regarding the ratification of the selection of Lauren Everett as our independent accountant, the proposal was approved by over 88% of the votes tabulated today. And Proposal 4, regarding executive compensation, the proposal was approved by over 54% of the votes tabulated today. This concludes the formal business at the stockholder meeting, and that meeting is adjourned. Before we get started and you hear from Dr. Pourhassan, I want to remind you that the company's remarks today contain forward-looking statements that involve risks, uncertainties, and assumptions that are difficult to predict and that may cause actual results to differ materially from those expressed or implied. Our forward-looking statements specifically include statements about leronlimab, its ability to have positive health outcomes, the possible results of clinical trials, studies, or other programs, our ability to continue those programs, and our regulatory outcomes. For discussion of the risks, uncertainties, and assumptions that may affect the company and its results, please refer to the risk factors identified in our most recent Form 10-K and any risk factors or cautionary statements included in any subsequent Form 10-Q or Form 8-K filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Except as required by law, we do not undertake any responsibility to update any forward-looking statements to take into account events or circumstances that occur after this presentation. It is now my pleasure to turn today's meeting over to Dr. Pourhassan, our President and CEO, who will provide a brief overview of our business and future direction. Following management's comments, we will have a question and answer period. Again, if you are a stockholder of record and would like to submit a question, you may submit questions online by clicking the dialogue icon on the top of your screen. Dr. Pourhassan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ariane. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining this annual shareholder meeting of 2020. Wow. It was 2012 when you appointed me as your CEO, and we were proudly an owner of leronlimab shortly after that. A product that showed a lot of promise back in 2012, but yet the big pharmas decided to shelve the product. They said it would take 8 years to do a phase 2 and another 12 years to do a phase 3, therefore we sell it. We went to clinical trials, and since 2014, it's been 6 years, and it's good for our annual shareholder meeting today to review what we have done in 2020, as this is annual shareholder meeting, and this is the most appropriate thing to do, and for the shareholders, the owner of the company, to see what have CytoDyn team do. In regards to clinical trials, we completed our phase 3 investigational trial in HIV monotherapy, the only trial in the world ever conducted in monotherapy with that number of patients. 2, we initiated and enrolled 10 patients in our basket cancer trial. The basket cancer trial is for 22 solid cancer trials. Number 3, we initiated and completed the fastest phase 2 I ever heard in COVID-19. in 2.5 months from day that we enrolled the first patient till we enrolled the last. 4, initiated a phase 3 in COVID-19 severe critical population with interim analysis coming any day now. 5, according to doctors and patients who were involved with our press releases that announced that we had success with emergency IND for COVID-19, over 60 patients was enrolled in emergency IND COVID-19, and we saved patients' lives according to the patients and their doctors. This was the biggest achievement of my life and our team, and perhaps yours, because we saved people's lives. That was a statement that can never leave my life. Number 6, BLA plan for resubmission to FDA. We had a hiccup with our BLA submission, got filed to refuse to file letters. Amgen, big pharma get those kind of things. But the main thing for us was we didn't have any clinical trial to redo. It was just the data needed to be sent. That's our accomplishment in clinical trial alone. Then in regards to licensing agreement, 2 licensing agreements was signed, one with Viera, $4.5 million equity and down payment, 50% sharing revenue, $87 million worth of milestone payments and so forth. A lot of people doubted that we could ever do such thing. We did. We also signed an agreement for COVID-19 with American Region, a Daiichi Sankyo group company. We also going to announce in the next few days that we're signing similar thing with a company in Philippines. We already have agreement, and the announcement should come next week. Let's talk about share price, liquidity, and market cap. Trading volume in terms of dollar total, approximately $90 million in 2019. The whole 2019, that's what it was. In 2020, the first 10 months, we have traded over $4.1 billion. Wall Street is talking about CytoDyn. The little CytoDyn has done something that has been amazing to everybody. Market cap peaked at approximately $6 billion. We were attacked, and now after all these fights, we're at $2 billion, 20 times what we were a year ago. And I'm going to get to a lot of update about where we think we're going to go, but that's what we accomplished in regards to share price, liquidity, and market cap. In regards to fundraising, effectiveness of capital raising results in material reduction in dilution. We care about the dilution. I don't know if the shareholders remember when a year ago, 2 years ago, I constantly said, I'm not going to raise $30 million and give 300 million shares. Some old board members, they wanted me to do a deal with a big bank for 500 million even, and just get 35 million just to be with a big bank. We said no. Shareholders' value is number one in my mind and of our team. In 2018 and 2019, we were forced to be diluted 397 million when we had a change of leader of the company in 2017. Because of that 397 million share dilution, to raise what? To raise $112 million. Think about this. When you think about the shares being diluted, 397, 400 million share dilution in 2 years to get $112 million. In 2020, only 10 months, we raised that same amount, 100 million almost, 28 million, 28. We just saved, if you just compare apple to apple, we saved hundreds of millions right there. In regards to PR, IR, we hear all about it, how terrible the CytoDyn team has been in IR, PR. Well, let's look at the record also and put that in perspective. And whatever you judge, you're the boss. You need to tell us what you think. Total number of shareholders 1 year ago was 3,500. 4 years in a row. I told the board member, Jordan Maydenow was there, Scott Kelly was there, and Mike Mahana was there. I said, in order to get the price of the stock up, we need to raise the volume of the company. The volume trade has got to go up, and we get out of this mess of 30 cents, 50 cents. Well, total number of shareholders went from 3,500 to 43,000. We did what we wanted to do for 3 years. Stock price was as low as 26 cents in October 18, 2019, and we hit a high of 10.01 June 30, 2020, when all the negative and liars came out. And now I'm very glad to tell you what we have and go forward and fight all these people. Okay, so let's go to our update. That was our resume for 2020. COVID-19, we started with CD10. The trial was 86 patients, 84 was evaluable, and 26 were leronlimab, 28 placebo. The slide number 3 explains exactly what is the modified intent to treat versus per protocol. Some patients will be taken out per protocol, and I'm not going to go through that. It's on the slide. You can check that out. Next slide is leronlimab versus placebo in the first very quick study that we did in the randomized trial. We have much lower incidence of SAEs, serious adverse events, in leronlimab versus placebo. Next slide shows the results of our primary endpoint. We did not make the primary endpoint, but it was phase 2. We wanted to see what we do. We want to know what we have to do to be very successful. We found out. In day 3, which is the most important day according to our scientists, we were 90% improved patients' symptoms versus 63%. Versus 71%. 90% versus 71% in day 3. Amongst the patients who had symptom score 4 or higher. So we find out that symptom score 4 or higher, we can reach our primary endpoint. We asked the statistical team, what do we have to do a phase 3 just like this? And how many patients will we need? They said 46 in each arm, 1-to-1, 92 to be exact. That's all you need, and you'll have your primary endpoint. Valuable information, incredibly valuable information. We got that. Next slide shows that we hit a statistically significant endpoint. How do you hit an endpoint with 84 patients? Ask any big pharma, how many patients do you guys do to hit an endpoint? Probably 1,000, 500, 300, not 84, not 2-to-1 randomized, 2 leronlimab, 1 placebo, just to be kind to the patients to make sure most people get leronlimab. Look at the results of the NEWS 2. I'm not going to go through this as we talk a lot about this. NEWS 2 was one of our very proud, we were very proud of what we saw. Other secondary endpoints was not as good as we thought we were hoping to, but that was understandable to our scientists. They said this population recover very easily. But yet, in regards to incidence of hospitalization, it was only 2% in leronlimab versus 11%. In regards to need of mechanical ventilation was 2% leronlimab, 4% in placebo. And in regards to patients who did not need oxygen, 84% in leronlimab didn't need it, but 79% in placebo. These are more good results that we have. Now the next slide, we talk about what do we do now. We have a phase 2. We did not get emergency use authorization. We did apply for it. Please make note, we did apply for it in FDA. We asked them, but we didn't want to have a check mark on our record. So we said, before you put that rejected, can you just tell us what you're going to do before you do it? And they did. Very wisely, they told us what to do. Moderate population would be the patient population we should go forward. Why? Because patients who were doing better was symptom score 4 or higher moderate. That's the information that we got. We also think long hauler is a very important study for us to do. We also talked to MHRA, and they said early access medicine scheme is something we would like to give you, which is for promising innovative medicine. And we are pursuing EUA in Philippines, and we will give you an update as soon as we have something. The next slide shows our regulatory agency, FDA, is looking at us for an interim analysis that we have asked them, that we have told them we're going to do. Now everybody is looking at this, and there is a lot of focus on this. This would be a first, I believe, maybe everybody can check, the first trial that would hit a primary endpoint of mortality. With mortality, primary endpoint is very difficult to hit with COVID-19. A lot of people have failed. But we did a safety look. What was that about? We look at 100 patients. What did that tell us? Was that something they just look at safety and go forward? No, they look at safety by looking at number of deaths. The number of deaths, if there was more in leronlimab versus placebo, they would have stopped the study. So we have a little bit of comfort here. The more comfort, another comfort that we have is 60 or so emergency IND were all severe and critical, and quite a bit of them improved, and some of them their lives got saved. And in regards to MHRA, we have 5 sites over there which should be initiating enrolling any day now. Next slide, let's talk about our HIV. So in U.S., we have a BLA submission, and we are hoping to do that this year. We're not going to give a specific timeline till we get our arms around all the data. There are data that is missing. There is something the refuse to file was given to Dr. Bruce Patterson, did a receptor occupancy test that the FDA rejected it. So just throw it away. We'll get another one. So we're back to square one on that one. We also are at CD03, the FDA wanted the whole data. So we're giving him the whole data. We are doing quite a bit of work to ensure 100% success. That's what I'm hoping, and that's what I think we're going to have, because FDA met with us. They said they would even look at it preliminary and tell us, hey, you're good, then file it just to make sure we don't miss the getting a PDUFA date. And in UK, we have asked for a pre-BLA meeting on October 22nd. We think we're going to get it, and that's a very important meeting because UK, we're not going to do 700 milligram combination therapy approval, 350. That BLA was ready 2 years ago. That BLA was ready 2 years ago. When the FDA said do 700 milligram because your success in monotherapy, we had to have a batch of manufacturing with a different vial volume that cost us 1.5 years delay. We had to go through a whole different measure to get 700 milligram patients enrolled and to follow them for 24 weeks. I mean, there was tremendous amount of work, and delay has caused our success, but we are where we are. The good news is we have solid science behind leronlimab, and everything is at the brink of great things to happen for us. In EU, we are also applying for pre-BLA meeting, and Canada, Health Canada, we will file for that, for HIV. In regards to basket trial, the enrollment is sitting there, you can see that, and we are going to get CT scan and MRIs of the patients so we can see exactly where we are. In regards to breakthrough designation, we are working to get the data. We have 11 patients in basket trial, which means we could get some patients results that would be significant for us to take it to the breakthrough designation. That process got delayed. There was shares that was assigned to the board members and the CytoDyn team. If we were going to get breakthrough designation, we forfeited all of that. 11 million shares went back to the company. So we are going to hopefully update everybody on the status of breakthrough designation very soon. And with that said, I am just beyond myself when Dr. Scott Kelly last time in our call said to everybody, by the way, we have a news to give you guys. That news is leronlimab crosses blood-brain barrier. And what does that mean? That means it crosses blood-brain barrier. Does the stock jump to $100 right away because of that? No. Does it mean anything? I want to ask Dr. Scott Kelly to give us exactly what is the published data out there that scientists out there are supporting us, so we're not just making it up from ourselves. The scientists, what is the proof about NASH? Could you tell me, Dr. Scott Kelly?
Sure. Thank you, Nader. So we know that CCR5 is present on hepatocytes and stellate cells in the liver. Stellate cells are what produce the scar tissue. Patients with chronic liver disease typically have high levels of CCR5 and CCL5 or RANTES. We also know that fatty liver disease and NASH are particularly common among HIV patients. I think the liver specialist, Dr. Ken Sherman, said it best. He said someday all patients with HIV may be treated with a blocking agent as part of their HIV drug cocktail designed to protect the liver, regain and maintain liver health. If leronlimab is effective in NASH, we believe this represents a potential $20 billion opportunity for CytoDyn and its shareholders.
Thank you, Scott. And also in regards to cancer, we have Dr. Bruce Patterson telling everybody, including my mother-in-law, that the mechanism of action is such that leronlimab acts like binding to macrophages, and they become like Pac-Man. That's the example he used. Eats up all the cancer cells. Well, it doesn't really just have that effect, perhaps, because there are patients we have that don't just come back alive. And that was our problem. We thought everybody's just going to take that Pac-Man, eat the cells, and then boom, come alive. They didn't. My own mother-in-law did great for a year, and now she's also having heart failure. So because this drug is not a miracle drug where you just take it and boom, it happens. We need to be realistic because we got something that's billions and billions and billions of dollars worth. But I want us to make sure we're realistic. So please tell us, what is the mechanism of action for cancer?
Right. Yeah, I mean, cancer is a tremendous opportunity, and the bar is very low with this. I mean, the immunotherapy market is approximately $100 billion. And what we do know about this market is that normal breast tissue and prostate tissue, for example, doesn't typically exhibit CCR5. But something happens during malignant transformation where there's an upregulation of CCR5 on the cell surface and in the tumor microenvironment, which is very important. So we believe that the most effective way to help control the progression of cancer is to control the tumor microenvironment. And again, this is research that is not produced by CytoDyn. This is out there that anybody can look up at any time, okay? But we know by blocking CCR5 interaction, we believe leronlimab has the potential to do the following. One is to convert an M2 macrophage into M1 macrophages. And this is very important because an M2 macrophage is a pro-tumor macrophage. An M1 macrophage is an anti-tumor macrophage. And I believe that's what Dr. Patterson was referring to, turning these M2 macrophages into M1 macrophages and going after the cancer itself, okay? We also know that tumors obviously need a blood supply to grow. And we know that RANTES has pro-angiogenic effects causing VEGF secretion by both cancer cells and the tumor-associated macrophages. So by limiting blood supply, we hope to limit tumor growth. And again, when we talk about malignant transformation and CCR5 overexpression, by controlling CCR5 overexpression, we believe it can help with metastasis, okay? And metastasis is what kills 90% of patients, not the primary tumor. Now, the last thing, this is relatively recent literature, but I think it's very interesting, is that there's also research that suggests that CCR5 inhibitors enhance the number of cells killed by chemotherapy through a synergistic effect. And I want people to understand, as a monoclonal antibody, we can be paired with almost any drug as we don't have drug-drug interaction.
No, perfect. That's great explanation. Now, back when Dr. Dennis Berger, who I love, this person who has done great work for CytoDyn, I hope everybody gets to know what Dr. Dennis Berger did for us. But back when he was with us, and he's right now has some health issues. He's in our prayer. I hope everybody prays for him. And he said that he went to Providence Hospital and a medical center, and he did a study with 6 mice in multiple sclerosis. And he said people were shocked. The 3 mice that got leronlimab did not have the paralysis every 2 weeks as the other 3 that did not get leronlimab had. And he said, my God, what do we have in our hands? Because we were so busy, we didn't follow through. What is our mechanism of action in MS?
Yes, this is an important point that you bring up, Nader, and this goes along the blood-brain barrier. We did not understand initially how, as a monoclonal antibody, leronlimab would cross the blood-brain barrier. Now we have evidence based on our recent studies that we've talked about that in 70 to 75% of the receptor occupancy in the brain. So we know that it is crossing the blood-brain barrier. In multiple sclerosis, you have effector cells that attack the brain, the optic nerves, and the spinal cord. And we know that RANTES is often elevated in patients and disrupts the blood-brain barrier, which may even make it easier for access for leronlimab. Okay? But in the brain, and I find this particularly fascinating, again, research not produced by CytoDyn, okay? In the brain of MS patients, independent research has shown both an elevation of CCL4 and CCL5 and an overexpression of CCR5 during relapse. So as these patients get worse, CCR5 expression increases, and a decrease in CCR5 in remission. So this suggests an association of CCR5 positive T cells with disease activity.
Great, thank you. And so we don't have indication everything, and the only one is not going to bring death from life, but we do have maybe 75 or 100 indications. So that's not going to be everything, but only 75 or 100. So that's we live on that. So tell us about autoimmune disease. That's a lot of indications. Do we have effect in autoimmune disease?
Yeah, I mean, the literature shows, in autoimmunity, immune reaction the self-tissue antigens, okay? So your body recognizes host tissue as foreign and begins to kill normal healthy tissue. We believe leronlimab works by immune trafficking to prevent the T effector cells from attacking normal host tissue.
And in regards to graft-versus-host disease, again, Dr. Dsmc did a fantastic job. He also published a paper with the animal study. The animal study, 32 mice got injected with human bone marrow. 16 of them that got leronlimab, all stayed alive. Only a few were going to stay alive. They would have got orphan drug designation. We got orphan drug designation. The result was just black and white, unbelievable result. How do we work on GVHD?
Yeah, that's an interesting study because we actually created a humanized mouse in that study with a human immune system in a mouse.
Yep.
So graft-versus-host disease occurs when the donor's T cells recognize the host tissue as foreign and begins to destroy it. So the most common organs typically affected are the stomach, the liver, and the skin. And CCR5 blockade can affect T cells trafficked to sites of graft-versus-host disease. We believe leronlimab controls the lymphocyte trafficking to target tissues in graft-versus-host disease.
Perfect. And how about sepsis?
Yeah, this is interesting that I was researching recently, especially in an era of MRSA, but CCR5 deficient mice are largely resistant to lethal Staph aureus infections. And what we realized is that Staph aureus produces leukotoxins, which are poisonous to neutrophils and other immune cells. But much like HIV, the leukotoxins use CCR5 to enter a cell, and they start killing immune cells. It's a very similar process to HIV, but that could be effective potentially in sepsis, and one of the many things we'll be looking at.
So in regards to blood-brain barrier crossing by leronlimab, stroke and traumatic brain injury would be for sure one of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, again, particularly interesting in light of our recent findings, but it's a leading cause of adult disability due to limited neurologic recovery, and that there's really no target for these patients for stroke and traumatic brain injury. And we said that leronlimab was found in brain tissue with receptor occupancy of approximately 70 to 75%. We know, based on research again by other people, that CCR5 is upregulated in neurons after stroke. Very similar to cancer, that we see that after a stroke, there's upregulation of CCR5, which we find to be an interesting phenomenon. And by using CCR5 antagonists, we've seen that it induces motor recovery after stroke and improves cognition after traumatic brain injury. They've studied the Delta 32 mutation population. They found out through this population that they're having better outcomes after stroke. So there's also been some promising results in enhancing memory and learning. So this is something that's very exciting for us to explore.
So this stroke is very important to me because my own family member who had a stroke is on leronlimab at 700 milligrams. When she had the mild stroke, she went to OHSU, and the doctor said she will not recover and be able to use her right side of her body that was paralyzed. The next day, I video her. She walked, and my wife said, don't say she walked 3 minutes. She only walked 1 minute. She walked, and she fed herself with her own hand. She is on leronlimab since November and alive, according to doctors that treat her because of leronlimab. That's one patient. It's anecdotal, and you can throw it in the garbage, the data. But I'm not going to throw the idea away because it saved my mother-in-law's life. Now, with that said, now we are getting right to try act. Patients are asking us. And we've been getting a lot of emails. And as of yesterday or the day before yesterday, our council checked everything out, and we are most likely giving the first patient right to try act product. The way it works is the doctor for the patient will send us the request. We evaluate that, our legal give us a green light that state is also qualified, and then we will sign off on the shipment of the leronlimab to go to that patient. So if somebody has, for example, stroke, and it's very urgent, we jump on it. If they have the necessary paperwork, we will jump on that. So that is that. So let's go to one thing. The next thing is how about our published paper? We always talk about publishing paper. On the left of this slide, you can see that in HIV, we did publish a paper in monotherapy, and there was 3 papers published by Progenics before we bought this product. They took 12 years to get to the phase 2A and publish 3 products. Keep in mind, we got the product in clinic since 2014, so 6 years. Let's see what we did. We published the data Dr. Dsmc did in graft-versus-host disease. We presented at 4 ASM micro, and 3 CROI presentation was given to us, and one of them was given to us with team discussion. 5 papers were selected, 3 from Gilead, 1 Merck, and one of them was CytoDyn to present monotherapy. Dr. Kushdori presented it. Now, future publication. We do have a CD01, CD02, and CD03, all in regards to papers that are ready to go. CD01 is our monotherapy extension study. Patients have gone 6 years, 5 of them. If you ask anybody, there is a sub-Q injection underneath the skin that patients are doing once a week, and they're done. They go forget about their HIV. They think you're lying, but we're not. This is happening, and the paper is going to be submitted for publication. CD02, the primary endpoint was hit. The manuscript is ready, and it's almost signed up by everybody. CD03, 200 patients reached almost a year with monotherapy. 40 past 2, 3, 4 years, even some of them. So these are amazing data we're generating. But in regards to PrEP, we have a paper that's going to be published animal study, but this is going to show that we're going to be able to use the leronlimab for once a month injection, not once a week, once a month. And cure project, Timothy Brown unfortunately died today, and he was the first patient who showed that the cure in HIV could be possible if you have a delta 32. Well, delta 32 is something that we are apparently can simulate and just do exactly that during a bone marrow transplant. This was given to us by another doctor and professors who are working on this project with leronlimab, and they're very excited. So our first patient getting injected would give us world visibility if we do, or if we are able to cure that patient just the way Timothy Brown was cured.
Yeah, and I'm working with a number of organizations to make sure that project moves forward as fast as possible, both domestically and internationally.
And as Dr. Scott Kelly is working on that, I am yelling at everybody, please, please move. So we're going to get this done. And in regards to emergency IND, Dr. Bruce Patterson submitted a paper, and I'm getting tremendous amounts of requests. Did I stop that paper? I mean, that's just so ridiculous to me when they ask this kind of question. But no, the paper was submitted to a journal that I cannot name, and then was not accepted, went to a different part of it, and that part didn't accept it, and refuse of acceptance was given. Therefore, we asked the physicians, which is Dr. Harish Sithamraju, Dr. Otto Yang, and Dr. Nicholas Agresti, to do their own patients and submit their own manuscript for those emergency INDs. They did that. And one of them has been accepted. We would announce that as soon as we can. But the other 2 is already well in its way, so we believe those 3 get published. Hopefully we will be able to talk about it. CD10, the manuscript is completely finished. It's going to be submitted hopefully no later than a couple of weeks or so. We are very excited about that manuscript. All of our principal investigators for that study are going to be on that paper. And also our abstract was accepted to the therapeutic for COVID-19. So that sums up what we have done in publication. But now let's go to the next slide and talk about, do we really have any commercial availability, commercial size when we get to the market? Everybody in our team in HIV, including Dr. Paul Madden, the inventor of this product, always said if leronlimab gets approval, there would be need for this product in every population of HIV. Second line, first line, PrEP, cure that we are talking about for certain patients. And I'm showing the data over here where you can see in 2020 and 2021 the numbers of patients that's going to be on multiple. This is from global data. This is not from us. This is global data. Over 250,000 patients in 2021 will be on multiple pills. Multiple pill patients are resistant probably to 2 or 3 classes. And when they are, the reason they get resistant, they can't take their pills on time. If they have leronlimab as part of their regimen, they're most likely going to have 10 days or 7 days protection if they forget their pills. Now if they forget to take their pills 1 or 2 days, they get resistant and they could have dangerous situation. So the scenarios are here. We believe we will be able to get label expansion one after another for HIV population right after our first approval. And our first approval, as I said before, somebody told me to repeat it, and I'm repeating it. I am 100% sure we will get approval. We did not come all this way to drop the ball, and we will not drop the ball. We got all of our data. We hit our primary endpoint. We had problem with the formatting and amount of data needed to go there. We will fix that. And we had a lot of problem with Dr. Patterson receptor occupancy. We separated from that immediately and go in the different directions to get it done right. Now, going to the next slide. Here's the breakdown of trading dollar amount. So please review that. Look at the dilution that we had. We had quite a bit of dilution in 2018, 2019. We stopped that at its unbelievable stuff. 28 million shares only diluted. Still $100 million were raised. So this is just for the shareholders to be able to see. But now that I will come to the end of the presentation, Mike, would you please address everybody about NASDAQ? People are telling me, why did I say that NASDAQ was going to give us an answer 2 days later, and then they didn't give us the answer? Is it my fault that I said that and updated everybody exactly where we are, or was it your fault? Please go ahead.
I'll take the bullet on that. Thanks for offering it, however. Good afternoon, everyone. As far as our uplift to NASDAQ, wanted to give everybody a quick overview of where we are. We were recently advised by NASDAQ that our application is still under review. At the outset, we believe this would be about a 6-week process, and for those of you and all of us who are following this very carefully, we're about now 10 weeks into the process. As many of you know, there are several quantitative variables in the uplift process. First and foremost is a $4 stock price, which is an important threshold. And as we all know, the landscape has changed. The exchange is looking for a seasoning above $4, but it's also important to note that if the stock is below $4 but above $2, there's another metric that comes into play, known as the net tangible asset test. However, there are a few other metrics involved in the uplift process, and we have a plan for all the other metrics. Again, and finally, it's important to recognize that even if we meet all of the requirements for an uplift, the decision to grant an uplift is at the full discretion of the exchange. Dr.?
Thank you so much, Mike. Ariane, can we please go to Q&A now?
Yes. We're very grateful for the people who sent in questions yesterday, because I think it's a challenge if you don't have your control number. There's only one question in the queue, so we'll go to the questions that were submitted to the email yesterday, and we appreciate everyone for doing so. Dr. Pourhassan, the first question concerns updates concerning the UK.
The UK is working on getting the first patient enrolled for us in CD12. That's just the enrollment project we have in the UK. The next project is MHRA is meeting with us most likely October 22nd. We requested that date. They haven't pushed back. If that happens, we are having a pre-BLA meeting with MHRA. They're going to tell us exactly what we need in our BLA, and we're going to immediately turn around and turn the BLA to them for 350 milligrams. The whole package is ready to go. 2 years it's been sitting there. And in regards to COVID-19, they want us to apply for early access use. We're not doing that right away. I'm holding that project because we have an interim analysis. If we get approval for COVID-19, we will need to do early access use. Good.
The next question is, when will the full report of mild to moderate CD10 trial results be made public?
Today. We just put it in every one of those slides, and they can see exact detail. And the top-line report will also be reported, but the manuscript of all the detail will be out there. And we'd be very happy to release the top-line report to anybody who just emails me. I'll send it to them either.
Does the company expect to take a statistical significant penalty of P.005 in the CD12 trial in order to obtain interim analysis results?
No, because we talked to our statistical team at Amarex, and the head of the Amarex is Dr. Kazempour, who worked for the FDA for 20 years. He was a biostatistician. He advised us against that. If we do have statistically significant value at this time, we believe there will be favorable decision to get approval right now. We don't know if we have that. I hope everybody's going to say, well, you said you're going to get approved. We don't know. That's why we do interim analysis. We're very positive. Why? Emergency IND data. 100 patient safety look. The safety look already was given to us. We were doing good. So we're just going to do this trial, interim analysis and announce it. So whatever we can.
Why would you say we will hear from NASDAQ on Wednesday or Thursday and never hear back?
It's all Mike's fault. He told me that we will hear 2 days later, and then I get up in the morning, first thing, 6 in the morning, calling Mike, saying what's happening. He said they need more time. They have said they need more time. So we don't have control over that. It's in NASDAQ time.
Why should executives be rewarded with additional shares prior to any approvals?
The condition for us getting shares is based upon performance, is out there in the public domain. We have said what we are getting. But please, everybody, our board members that are not here, David Welch, which is I'm grateful to him, and Michael Crump, which I'm very grateful to him. Both of them decided that they would go forward based upon the old board decision to replace CEO. So Dr. Scott Kelly led that. He got a report, and he got a company, and we were supposed to pay $70,000 to replace the CEO. They requested 70 million shares to be able to replace CEO. That's 10% equity. I got 9 million shares right now. 9. So everybody should see that the kind of benefit they got from the management team was not anywhere close to the standard. And I'm okay with it because I'm all about the company. And my team have not done anything over what any other company would get. Our market cap is at $2 billion, and the reports out there says who should get how much. Our board members we have independent board members who will decide what is appropriate to give to the team. And whenever we have an approval, that means 1 out of 5,000 just happened. We believe in one of them. Then the board would decide what to give to who.
Has the company filed a lawsuit against Citron Research for their report that called CytoDyn a fraud?
We don't spend time on liars, deceit, master of the disguise and deceit. These people can do their thing and we do our thing. Our thing is go to FDA, get approval. Their thing is lie, so we can't just spend time on that.
What is CytoDyn's priority for FDA approval? HIV or COVID-19?
Both are priority. Obviously, the first one is CD12 interim analysis coming up. We'll see if that happens. That means we get approval sooner than HIV.
And the enrollment figure for the severe to critical trial, what are we at?
220.
Are all 14 hospitals listed as recruiting on clinicals.gov, in fact, actively enrolling severe critical patients?
It's 24 sites. I've verified that, and those 24 sites are recruiting. And the reason the recruitment has slowed down is because every site has to enroll the data to get the first 195 all completed. We're going to go very fast after this, and there'll be Dr. Chris Reckner as part of our team that Dr. Scott Kelly brought us. He has shown what he can do. He enrolled 25 patients or so in less than a couple of weeks. We beat our timeline of enrolling in CD10 by 1 week. Nobody sent me an email saying good job, but that's okay. But with CD12, we will finish the enrollment before the end of the year.
Why isn't Dr. Patterson part of CytoDyn's scientific advisory board?
We only choose certain people that Dr. Scott Kelly thinks is appropriate for that indication. Dr. Bruce Patterson led the laboratory who were giving us results. We did have a lot of difficulties getting those results. We did have a lot of problems with the receptor occupancy that he gave us. FDA did not accept it. So with that reason, we wish him the best. He has done a great job for us in a lot of areas, and we wish him good luck on everything he does, but he's not going to be part of CytoDyn at this time.
There have been discussions that Dr. Patterson's article has been held up from publication by you. Is that true?
So in CytoDyn, I want to get the stock to go at a higher level, and I want the science to go forward. That is what I have done in the last 6 years. Why would I stop anybody's paper? Now, the first time Dr. Patterson submitted the paper, was to a place, and then it moved to another place. Both rejected it. And then we said to the principal investigator, they need to submit. Now, if Dr. Patterson or anybody submits a paper and puts my name on there, and I'm already promising somebody else to go forward, then I just don't want to be a co-author on that. Dr. Patterson can submit anything he wants and any data, and he can do it. But we can't have CytoDyn's name on it.
Will CytoDyn's management be given enough information from the Dsmc to make an informed decision on whether or not it should override a Dsmc decision to not submit to the FDA?
So it doesn't work like that. Let me just explain how this works. We form a DSMB team, 3 members, and there's a chairman of the DSMB. That person conducts the study. Now, there's only one person that unblinded the data at Amarex, which FDA allows. The FDA oversees all of these things. The DSMB members are accepted by FDA. Once the analysis is done, once the unblinding happens with that one person, Dr. Kushdori has to tell that one person what kind of analysis he's going to do, but he's also unblinded throughout the whole thing. Once we get the result, then the result that the DSMB give us, we will announce it. If the result is where we have a significant p-value, which we won't know, but they will know, they would automatically tell FDA, hey, they hit the primary endpoint. There's no reason to go another 190 patients. They're already hitting it now. So if it's not hitting the primary endpoint p-value of less than 0.05, then the best thing is to continue and get approval. I want everybody to understand, continue, and you have the first approval in the world for the mortality so you can stop people from dying. And if it happens in the next 2-3 months, that's not good enough. This is the best news we could ever get, and I'm praying every day, and I hope everybody does, that we have an option of to get that wonderful news.
How much is remaining liability does CytoDyn have with Samsung?
Do you want to weigh in on that? I mean, we have asked for them to do 11 batches. Those 11 batches are producing 1.2 million vials. Those 1.2 million vials we still owe some money, but we just not going to get to how much we owe or how much we don't owe. Mike, do you want to say?
Yeah, the only thing I can add right now is I would direct everyone's attention to note number 10 in the audited financial statements that were filed with the SEC on October 12th and 13th, which discloses our financial arrangements and the ongoing commitments. Also to remind everyone that our quarterly report on Form 10-Q for the quarter ended August 31 is due to be filed with the SEC not later than October 13, and that will include some additional updated information.
Dr. Pourhassan, why do you believe investors should remain invested in CytoDyn for the next few months?
So I was asked this question 4 years ago, and then 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago, and a year ago. Every time. And I said, the Ronlimab Foundation is incredible. It makes me want to cry. That this product works. That this product was shelved. And I said, believe me, it worked in GDHC. Dr. Dennis Berger said that. He did the study, please ask me. And everybody said, oh, if you got this, why doesn't the big pharma buy it? Why doesn't the stock go to $1 at least? The stock went to $10, and we are fighting giants of negative people and liars right now. But the fundamental never changed. I always said double digit is not enough for this stock. That's my opinion. Triple digit is maybe high, not too high. So this product, as Dr. Scott Kelly outlined it, from published data outside, said that CCR5 is something very important. Scientists didn't know that. 15 years ago, nobody looked at CCR5. That's why Dr. Paul Madden and the Progeny group didn't really investigate CCR5 role in cancer or any other. They were just focused on HIV. We are one lucky people to get this product, thanks to Dr. Paul Madden and William Olson, that team. The future of this company is not the every conference call that we have, I'm going to announce an approval. It happens 1 out of 5,000. It happens over 20 years. It happens after $2 billion. We spent $320 million. Look at the number of indications we have and look at where we are in regards to approval. That's why you should be submitted, put your bet on something like that. High risk, high reward. I don't think this is high risk. To me, this is very, very low risk. I've said that many times in the last 2 years. Very, very low risk and very, very high reward.
Are there any updates on business development in the realm of license agreements in any of leronlimab's indications?
Yeah, so we are working with approximately 11 big pharmas in discussions. I think they're waiting on the data, obviously. We're also working with companies in China and Europe and North Africa, et cetera. Some talks are more advanced than others, but I think things are going well. And I think, in regards to where big pharma is, I think that they're waiting on the data. Yep.
Have we submitted the EIND data to the MHRA?
No, we have not. We are working on that. Those emergency INDs, there is a lot of detail about each one of those patients that we are now gathering. We should have it ready in a couple of weeks.
When will the company communicate CD12 results for the U.S. and U.K. studies?
Immediately the interim analysis will be announced, and then when the final study is finished, then we'll hopefully announce that.
Can you provide an update in regard to the quantity of leronlimab on hand and supply chain availability?
Yes, well, at this time we have over 30,000 vials that came to us, and probably had a few 10,000, 20,000 from before. So I'd say approximately 50,000 vials, but we got 300,000 vials that's completely finished, and it's being vialed next week, the next 2 weeks, in South Korea. And we're going to receive 300,000 vials. Now, we have another 900,000 bulk substance that can turn to 900,000 vials that we're not going to do fill and finish till we know where we are with CD12. Because once you vial that, you have 2 years stability. You don't want to start your drug unless you have immediate need for it.
How are the current efforts toward the BLA resubmission progressing? And when will the FDA receive the data in acceptable format for their 30-day courtesy pre-review?
I have a lot of things to talk about in that regard, and we'll do that in the next week or two. We are hiring a man who has done many NDAs and BLAs. He has looked at all of our data. We're ready to sign an agreement with him to be in charge of our BLA. Dr. Kushdori and Ahmed are doing a fantastic job finishing the data. We set the occupancy from Dr. Bruce Patterson that was rejected. It's being done in another 2 laboratory right now. We're looking at both of them. Everything is in a tracker, and we have timelines, and we are meeting every week with our team. There's about 19, 20 people at the meeting that we have. I'm flying to New Jersey to finalize our team. Dr. Scott Kelly and I are tomorrow. We are meeting with a couple of our key people in New Jersey, and then with Amarin. We are organizing everything ready to become the 10 times bigger than Gilead.
Could you please give details on the population of patients that fall into the category of combination therapy with HAART comparative to the overall population of all HIV-infected patients that are receiving care?
So the combination therapy is for multi-drug resistance, MDR. That's for three-class resistance. But what we did in our protocol, Dr. Paul Madden did a spectacular job with the other advisors we had. And he got FDA to agree to do two-class drug resistance. Now that changes. Three-class drug resistance, there's only 25,000 patients as of last year. Two-class drug is 240,000. Two-class drugs need to have limited treatment option also, but almost all the HIV patients have limited treatment option because they don't like to take this or that. So that combination therapy for us, we believe, according to BioVid report, BioVid report was right, it's going to be between 1 to 3 billion. But remember, combination means what? Combination means leronlimab is something else. If it's only for multi-class resistance and the HIV patients start saying, wow, if I miss my pills, I'm not seeing any problem, other patients want to take it, and therefore we immediately do label expansion. With the perhaps we do one of the main drugs that we have, we do a combination with them. We do a combination perhaps with one of the Gilead drugs, one drug and our injection, and that would be a huge possibility for first line. First line is very large. So we believe the 1 to 3 billion for our combination therapy, but monotherapy is about $5 to $6 billion.
Was there a response to CytoDyn from the FDA on the request for priority review designation for the BLA as a combination therapy for HIV?
So the BLA submission is for combination therapy, that's correct.
Was there, on the request for priority review?
Oh, the request for priority review will be reviewed after the BLA is accepted. The BLA was not accepted. So we have to wait for that.
What is CytoDyn's current cash position, and what is your expected cash burn until the end of the year?
Mike, could you?
Yes. We do not report cash balances during interim months. As you know, our last cash balance was reported in our 10-K for the year ended May 31, wherein we reported $14.3 million balance. However, as we also disclosed in the subsequent event footnote in the 10-K, since June 1, we've raised approximately $46 million. Of that $46 million, $21 million has been derived from exercise of warrants and options, as well as closing on a convertible note, which netted the company about $25 million.
What is still needed for the BLA submission to be ready to go?
So there's different parts. As I said, the receptor occupancy test was a big failure for us, but we are going to be doing that. And then we are going to also get the CD03, all the data. The trial is over, so we can submit that, and we're also going to use that same data to submit to the European agency for approval for monotherapy. And we'll ask that question from FDA. We don't think we're going to get that because they want us to do another trial for monotherapy. But everything is set ready to go. We just have to put it in the right format. There's a lot of work to be done on receptor occupancy. That takes some time, but we're working on all the fronts, and we'll let everybody know where we are.
Does Amaroq have sufficient resources to handle all the trials?
So Amaroq has some resources, but to get all these trials, which is only like maybe how many indications, 75, that's going to need somebody else to come in also. But Amaroq would facilitate those kind of things for us to expand other through them if we have to.
Can you provide a status on NIH of Mexico?
We have not heard back from Mexico. They haven't quiet.
How many indications does CYDY hope to be approved within the next 3 years, and how they may affect share price and market value?
As I always said, 3-4 digits is what I'm expecting, and the number of indications is going to be tremendous. If we get approval for the first approval, all other indications become label expansion. Do you agree with that, Scott?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're building a strong foundation right now through everything we're doing. And I think it's interesting when you talk to the FDA and MHRA, they're all asking for the same thing. All we have to do is get our first approval, and everything after that is label expansion as long as we show that it's effective.
Despite the COVID restrictions, is it possible to release data, CTC and CAMS counts for patients in triple-negative breast cancer?
So we already signed a work order with Creative Microtechnology. So we will, as soon as we get that result, we will be able to let everybody know. But we're working on all of that.
Has a partnership with Big Pharma been considered to help expedite approval?
We always are happy to hear from any Big Pharma what they want to do with us. But having so many indications for one product is a difficulty for somebody to want to take all of it. So we have our difficulties because of that beautiful situation where we have many indications.
How confident are you in the meeting with the FDA concerning your BLA?
100% approvable drug we have in our hands. That's all confident.
Why doesn't CytoDyn partner? That question was answered. Hang on one second. Why no recruitment of professional public relations experts so that CytoDyn gets better media coverage?
Well, the media coverage comes when people are their lives are getting saved. Just imagine the way we got media attention was when Samantha Moti, one of the patients from Dr. Autoimmune at UCLA Hospital, just went public herself and said that, hey, my life was saved. So then we got false news came after that and so forth. This CD12 result will get us a lot of publicity if the results are fantastic. If it's not, then we have to go back to our drawing board and see what we have to do to, just like every other pharma, when they have a hiccup, they have to go and find out what they're going to do. We don't think that's going to be the case because of the results that we see from emergency IND and the 100-patient safety loop, but let's wait and see. But this media coverage, people thinking that we need to hire somebody. We hired so many IRs and PRs. We have learned so much from hiring and firing. At least 20 IR and PR groups. They come in, oh, we're going to get you there, but we don't buy that anymore because we're not educated in this area.
Is there any available mechanism to provide the still blinded Dsmc data from the interim CD12 to other countries for approval without incurring the p-value penalty?
No. So again, do we have any cost in that rating because they have specific?
There's only one in the queue, and that question is was the approximate number of 45 deaths in CD.P12 trial taken from? Is this the current number of deaths reported from the original 195 patients?
So we did not record it, how many deaths exactly, but we said at one time I think that there's about 40-some deaths. Right now those numbers have 50 deaths. Unfortunate to have any deaths, but the higher the number of deaths, the more you're going to be able to distinguish between the two arms of which the death happened in which arm. We made sure that this trial CD12 is 2-to-1 randomized, so more people get the leronlimab, even though it's ordered to have your primary endpoint. But we know that.
And at this point, do you know which basket the deaths are in?
Oh no, we are definitely all blinded. This is double-blinded placebo control.
Dr. Pourhassan has incorrectly stated in 2 conference calls that no other drug has received approval for the moderate COVID population. Remdesivir has already been approved for that population, and Regeneron will likely also be approved for the same population. Please explain how the FDA told CytoDyn that they have no interest in approving leronlimab for this population.
So if the question is saying that Regeneron might be getting approval, so they're just calling one Remdesivir. And Remdesivir did not do a study in moderate, best of my knowledge. And what I said at that call was, to the best of my knowledge, they don't have any approval. We don't know any other big pharma doing a study on that. But it's not.
Yeah, so they don't have approval, but they got emergency use. Yeah, so they don't have approval, but what happened was they got for moderate hospitalized patients. So that's the difference.
Has the FDA accepted the long hauler protocol?
We have the synopsis ready to go. Dr. Chris Reckner told us that there's quite a bit of patients who want to use this long hauler in right to try act. So we're working on that, but the synopsis is almost finalized. Dr. Chris Reckner is taking a lead on that. Dr. Scott Shelley did that. So as soon as we have agreement among our scientists, we will send that to the FDA, and FDA, if there could be the synopsis, the protocol is already set to go. So it will be very fast after that.
Yeah, so I'll just add with that population, this is a real problem that we're trying to address with the long haulers, and we do appreciate the emails from a lot of people reaching out to us. So it's been estimated that about 75% of patients hospitalized with COVID will become long haulers, so we want to try to help those patients. So.
Why isn't the long hauler trial a phase 3?
If we do a phase 3 without knowing how we're really going to come out of that, then you're going to give a one shot at it, head or miss. If you do a phase 2 and you do have a great result, primary endpoint head, then you're most likely going to get approval because there's nothing out there. So why put ourselves in a jeopardy of doing a huge phase 3 when you can do a small phase 3 and get approval perhaps? And not to have to worry about primary endpoint head or miss. We'll learn everything we want to learn.
What was the outcome of the UK MHRA UPHR, also referred to as Urgent Public Health Submission?
It was an excellent meeting we had. Obviously, the ELA, prepared the ELA meeting for HIV is happening soon, but in regards to COVID-19, they want early access use. They're very excited to see the emergency IND use. They said that's very, very important to us.
Once the FDA combo HIV BLA is submitted, will CytoDyn need to wait 60 days for a RTF and 74 days for the official BLA acceptance and PDUFA date, or can any of those time intervals be compressed?
All the timelines are fine, but one thing we have to keep in mind, every shareholder should know that. We're granted rolling review for our BLA. What does that mean? That means our first 1 out of 3 section, which was non-clinical, that was submitted in 2019 March, hopefully has been reviewed. The manufacturing part hopefully has been reviewed. So The clinical is going to be given to the FDA. Now, would they give us a PDUFA date 6 months or 10 months later? We don't know, but we have a lot of hope that because we have gone forward with the FDA so much that some of these timelines will be compressed, but we just don't know. I cannot promise any of that.
There are 3 final questions for today's meeting. Provide an update in the Breakthrough Therapy Designation meeting with the FDA that was scheduled for September.
Yes. So the breakthrough designation, that's what we have ordered 2 different studies, analysis from Creative Microtechnology. One for triple-negative breast cancer phase 1B-2 and compassionate and emergency IND people, and the other one for basket trial. So once we get those analysis, then we have something in our hands to go to FDA with.
Do you have a status on the microtechnology analysis for basket trial?
They are supposed to give us a timeline by next week.
Provide an update of Dr. J. Lalazari's request to the FDA increasing the basket trial dose to 700 milligrams.
Dr. Lalazari is going forward with 525 milligrams, and he's still waiting to see if FDA will allow 700 milligrams. So all the patients who are waiting will be injected now.
That concludes the question and answer period today. If you have questions that we did not answer, please email them to cydy_team@cytodyn.com. Also, we welcome letters from our stockholders, and we do our best to respond promptly to any written inquiries. This meeting is now completed. You may disconnect.
Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude the meeting. You may now disconnect and have a pleasant day.